Cold at the touch, dead in the eyes, no signs of life no more. I put your love under the knife. Leave me to die here all alone. No signs of life no more, no. A crying dove may never fly. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. It's black and white. Black and white, just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Just let me go. It's only right. For all I know, it's only matter. It's calico, it's black and white. White, white, white. Black and white. Yeah. Black and white. Oh, 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 oh. Just black and white. Black and white.
Hello everyone and welcome to Simracersworld TV for the SRW GT Pro Series Round 10 from the Spa Francorchamps circuit in the Belgian Ardennes. I'm here tonight with Jack Werrell yet again to take all you lovely people through the action of what was supposed to be the final round of the series, but due to the postponement because of an iRacing update from round 6, and that was the round taking place at Silverstone. We've got one more round of action in 2 weeks' time. Anyway, that's gonna make the action today nothing less great indeed. And Jack, are you looking forward to the racing we've got at hand today?
Of course. Hello, everybody, and welcome, like Hasse said, to Simracersworld TV. And yeah, Hasse, I can't really look forward to it anymore. We've seen a solid season of close, hard racing. Sadly, like you say, one of the rounds had to be postponed, but it does mean that we can extend the season by 2 weeks. So we go to Silverstone in a couple of weeks' time, but it's all about Spa this evening, a circuit which is famed for its almost ease of off tracks. It's so easy just to run that extra little bit too wide. And going into the final 2 rounds now, Hasse, so we know there's that 60 incident point limit. If you get a few too many here, it could ruin your season.
Very good point indeed, Jack. Very good point indeed. And we've seen a fair few drivers when looking through the standings. I can see beforehand at least that there are a few drivers that need to be watchful of that very same thing with the incident points, and perhaps we might see some qualifying bans being taken. Of course, the opportunity is to skip qualifying at the you could say gain of getting some incident points revoked. Porsche Sport, welcome to United to have you along. And yes, indeed, we've hit 1,000 K subscribers, which is magnificent indeed. I'm just gonna do one thing that I usually forget to do in time, because we don't have a lot of it when we go live here in qualifying. The championship standings. And it is Johnny Verhoeven still in the lead. 735 points to his name, which means that we spoke to it today with Jack. 51 points for Johnny Verhoeven today, and he is crowned the champion. Joop de Leek second there with 560 points. And then Sam Bentham for Rømer Sport Academy, 460 points to his name. And then it's close with Martin van Loosenoot, who's though still not driving anymore. That's a shame, 445. Ryan Parkins, top Porsche with 422. And Robin DeVille for Flemish Sim Sports with 389. Then Mario Uri Sepp Hebra for SRW Esports. Neil Cooper, for Fury Sim Sports with 313 points. And then Ewan Marshall in 10th place. And just glancing through the rest of the standings, there is so much stuff going on. And I will let you have that glance, and I won't talk too much about it. But Jack, Spa, I think a circuit that you and we've got fond memories of sharing races together here and speaking about it as well. And I always get excited because this, I feel like, and I think, is one of the very best racetracks in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. It is a very, very almost unique circuit. Lots of undulation, very easy to get off tracks. But if you weave the car in between the lines, it can be a very rewarding track to drive. And I've just done a quick bit of maths. It's actually only 26 they're required to hand the championship his way. But yeah, like you say, fun memories. The Porsche Sport 2 Hours of Spa. I think it was the 2 Hours of Spa at least. That was a very good race around here. And Porsche tonight, they're looking strong. Ryan Parkins and Ewan Marshall in the top 3. Currently looking at Neil Cooper. We've then got Austin Greatorex and Martin van der Eyck, all in Porsches. With what is a minimised grid, Hasse, the Porsches are doing very well.
It really is. And it's been strong for quite some time, to be honest. The Porsches have been a growing force on the field here in the SRW GT Pro Series in the 7th season, because it's not the first time we've seen the Porsche around for top spots indeed, but it just so happens that to be on top you need to be lucky with the season's BOP, and for the first part of this season the Porsches were anything but that, getting hit with a big old BOP hammer. And it's nice to see some fair competition. And actually, Jack, I know that the BMWs have had some aerodynamic downforce taken away from them, so we're expecting to see the BMWs a little less strong through the twisty bits here. But really nice to see the Porsches so far up on a track that usually tends to favor the strongest car on top speed.
Yeah, it is. I think the Porsche is quite a well-balanced car for me. I know in my experience driving it, whether that's something to work with setup, I don't know. But it can be quite quick on the straight, especially in draft. It really does make the most of draft. And through the corners, it's so balanced. If you can nail your braking as well, you're going to have a very quick car as the session ticks over now. At the moment, provisional pole position is Ryan Parkins, but this man here, Sam Bentham for Ronin Simsport Academy, doing what he can to knock Ryan Parkins off the front row, now diving towards the final chicane, in towards the bus stop, hard on the brakes, throwing it to the right, over the curb on the left as well, and then foot to the floor for the drive to the line. What can he do? Crosses the timing beam now, and he does improve, but only his time and not his position, a 2:11.697, and that's a very competitive lap time around here.
And very certainly is, and I think as the session is just ticking over and we're just going to be waiting for some grid slots to appear there, that is certainly competitive. Kim Behade, welcome to you, Stephen DeWolf, and Flairo, who is Keanu Borgagnon. Indeed, it's not just 11 entries, were a little bit more, but there's a few grid penalties, not grid penalties, but qualifying bans, you could say, being handed on themselves. Anyway, the grid orders up here. It's Ryan Parkins for Strasse Porsche spot on pole position. Then Sam Bentham from the Ronin Simsport Academy. I was about to say Tom Marshall. It's certainly not. It's Ewan Marshall from Team 11. Then Robin DeVille of Flemish Simsport in 4th place, rounding off the 2nd row of cars on the grid. Neil Cooper for Fury Simsports there, with Austin Greatorex for Strasse Porsche Sport in 6th. Martin van Rooijbeek, the Simpac driver in 7th. Then Bart Boland, the Manxman for Meraki Racing in 8th. Sepp Heber in 9th. Then Paul Gosling for Quantum Racing in 10th. Ryan Walker in 11th. And Johnny Verhoef, who did not qualify indeed, in 12th place, and he probably did indeed take a good choice on just when to not qualify. And Pin Bao's done the very same thing in the number 11 car, starting in 13th place, Jack.
Yeah, so Pin Bao, the sole G-Drive car out on the road today, much like Johnny Verhoef as well, the sole Manatee car out. Lots of I don't think there is a car which actually has a teammate. Just having a quick look through. Yes, there is one, I believe. Austin Greatorex and Ryan Parkins, for me, both showing up as Strasse Porsche Sport. Thought Austin Greatorex was Fury Sim Sport, evidently not. But look at that. The minimised grid all lining up, which should mean with this half warm-up lap, we will end up with some action on the way.
Yeah, indeed, it's gonna be quite quick. And you calling it a half warm-up lap, that's a little much to call it half a lap. I think other half laps will be a little bit shameful that you give this the status of half lap. It's more like a fifth of a lap, to be honest, but it's all good in our minds. And actually for the drivers as well, I checked this out in the LMP2 cars, because drivers and the cars, of course, get released from their slots here behind the safety car, just getting the tire warmers immediately dragged off of the tires, which means less time basically to let the tires cool down. And given, of course, if you compare it to an entire lap of forming up behind the safety car, and thus often cars with just that little bit more grip at the start of the race, which in turn makes it both better and safer as well for a good part of it. But of course, cold tires at the start, very much a thing we also have to just have as a thing to consider for drivers when having to start a race. Anyways, Sam Bentham on the right-hand side, on your left-hand side, which isn't no longer on your left-hand side, but in pole position, it's Ryan Parkins in the 911. It's Sam Bentham in the BMW, and behind it's Robin DeVille and Ewan Marshall, and it's 3 Porsches in a row, even 4 maybe there, as Ryan Parkins goes early. And I think that's a pretty bad start for Marshall. There is it Bentham on the outside, Ewan Marshall on the inside, but they're very much side by side. The BMW gets the better run. Storming start from Van Rooijbeek, though, who's up into 4th place, Jack.
Yeah, great start from himself. You can see him trailing on past Ewan Marshall, trying to catch up now onto the Camel Straight. What can Ewan Marshall do? He's very, very close to the tail end of Sam Bentham, tearing towards the chicane now. What can he do? Has a little look to the inside, decides maybe this isn't the lap to do it, with it only being the first lap. There's side-by-side action in the background. I think that is Austin Greatorex and Robin DeVille. Robin DeVille stays behind there. There is Seb Herbert being hounded by Ryan Walker. Paul Gosling trying to catch up in the Quantum Racing machine as well. And already 2 packs starting to form. What's happened here?
Yeah, indeed, you were mentioning the onslaught from Austin Greatorex there. I think he actually did went past, and he did. on the outside, coming into Le Forge. Anyway, not bad at all. A good clean start from everyone. Ryan Parkinson, on a real flyer indeed. And Sam Bentham, just enough of an occupation for himself at the moment with Ewan Marshall pretty big in his wing mirrors. And Martin van Rooijek, one of the strongest starts we've seen from the Simpac Dutchman this season so far. We know he had the talent, but he just hasn't really had the luck. And as Murray Walker said, and I'm going to bring him out thick and fast today, Jack, and it's going to be with voice and everything, but it's not enough to be lucky. You've got to be good, and he is that. So, Robin DeVille under another bit of onslaught, this time from Bud Boland and the Meraki BMW as they round through Blanchimont, coming up towards the bus stop. And this is a big old chance for offense, but Bud Boland seems to be waiting for it here. Seb Hebra. Oh, and there's a fight in behind, and I make it sound like someone's engaged in a couple of fisticuffs there, and that might not be as bad as that, but I think it was a pretty good situation there for Ryan Walker defending himself from Paul Gosling, of course. I'm just gonna see he had another shot, but that was from the very first lap at the back of affairs here, and a relatively undramatic takeover.
Yeah, but you did mention on the first lap that Martin van Rooijek has massively gained here. You can see him chasing down Ewan Marshall and Team 11. Look at Austin Greatorex, 2 positions gained, chasing him down. What has happened to Martin van Rooijek? He must have got a slowdown going over Radion, and look at the car streaming by. So everybody up a position. Austin Greatorex up into 4th. Robin DeVille down into 5th from where he started. Bud Boland up into 6th. Seb Herber up into 7th. And Martin van Rooijek, after gaining 3 positions off the start and being in 4th, he's now right the way down in 8th. Not what he wanted.
Certainly not at all. And we're just going to see here Neil Cooper. Look at this. They're all a lap down already. So they've been really let down by having to start from the pit lane. And those points to be picked up for Johnny Verhoeven is certainly a fair bit of works. Of course, 12th place? I think that's going to net him the points by second thought anyway. But we still have some close battles going on. Here's Ryan Walker still having to defend from Paul Gosling, which he got the better of in the very first of corners. And since then, Gosling has been heavy on his rear end. And in behind them, it's Neil Cooper with Johnny Verhoeven on the tail. But mind you, a lap back, they will be having a lot of catching up to do if they're to get involved with top spot positions anyway here. Robin DeVille on the back straight down towards Blanchimont and the bus stop.
Got to think though, Hasse, as well, obviously with the strategy playing a part, whether Johnny Verhoeven and Pim Bow and Neil Cooper, of course, as well, maybe making up a bit of time in the first or second pit stop. What's happening here? That's Johnny Verhoeven off the road, stuck in behind. I think that was Neil Cooper, possibly. It was round the outside through the bus stop, switches to the inside. Great move from him, textbook there, chasing down Ryan Walker now. But you've also got to remember that this could be a very, very high fuel usage circuit, so much of it is flat out. So from that hairpin, you're flat out all the way until the best part of Radion, maybe a little lift halfway up Eau Rouge, and then once again back on the throttle for Kemmel Corner and the Kemmel straight up towards Lake Com. Great run through there for Johnny Verhoeven, jumps to the outside of Ryan Walker. He'll carry the momentum all the way up towards Lake Com. Maybe a bit of a push in the middle, almost 3 wide. There's 3 wide. People, look at that, Hasse.
Yeah, indeed. Sorry for just getting a little wildly excited there for a moment, and I think Neil Cooper thought better of it. Just a little correction on myself. I made the mistake of telling you that the pit lane starters were a lap behind because my timing screen was telling me so, but it turns out that's not the case at all. They are very much on the same lap, and as you can see, Verhoeven now getting passed on Ryan Walker, and that means that he's already charging up through this reduced field. Indeed, Neil Cooper now on the tail of the Nomad Ferrari, and up ahead, Sam Bentham is hanging on to it, but not by a lot. But that Porsche of Ewan Marshall, Team 11, they're still hot on the tails in pursuit, Jeff.
They are indeed. And now heading through Stavlo on to the little straight there. And this is where the draft will play a part, mainly for Ewan Marshall by the looks of it, catching on to the tail end of Sam Bentham. But Ryan Parkins just having a quick glance over at the gap he's got. He will be out of the draft range well and truly. 2 seconds between the pair of them. Sam Bentham and Ewan Marshall, on the other hand, only separated by 0.7 of a second through the bus stop. Sam Bentham pulls out a bit of time through there, maybe slightly stronger on the brakes. Ryan Parkins with the fastest lap of the race at 2:12.054. Speaking to Ryan before the race, he always sends me a nice little message, so thank you for that, Ryan. He was saying race pace looking in the 11s, and he's already knocking on the door of that on lap 4. What's happened here, Hasse?
Neil Cooper gets a little too much of the curb there, and he actually collects the Quantum BMW there of Paul Gosling as well. And you can see the damage caused to the front end. I think it's just going to be bodywork for him, but it's much less than optimal. And Paul Gosling, let's look at his car, seems to be pretty alright, to me at least, and he'll be happy, because Spa, certainly not the place to carry around too much damage. It seemed to me Pim Bao got safely through on that situation as well. By the way, Kim, did we recover after the 24 hours of Solar, the Bell Car Virtual E-Series, that is, of course, this weekend? Jack, we'll start with you.
More or less, yeah. I'm really still disappointed that it's over. It's such an amazing event. Everybody pulled together, great team effort, and it was great to speak to everybody in chat as well, and speaking to the drivers. It just had an amazing feel about it, and I'm so sad that it's over. But let's hope that we can do more of that in the future. How about you, Hasse?
Oh, much certainly. So I had to be fresh and rested by Monday evening, as we did the very much new Dynamics SRW NASCAR Winter Series, which is turning out to be an absolute banger indeed. So happy I got in on that. Had the first round with Ed May, and Jack Oliphant's going to be in for the rest of it, hopefully, as well. Oh, Johnny Verhoeven's had an issue here, and I'm just going to see if it's been a bad one. Oh, that's actually while we were following. So that is the slightest of off tracks. And speaking of off tracks, it is, of course, a place that has the most stringent of track limits here at Spa Francorchamps. That's certainly something the drivers are going to be well familiar. Also a very good point in just why some of the drivers choose not to qualify today, because they probably know they'd rather do that than have to really be super careful with the incident points they pick up today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great little tactic that they can play, and Johnny Verhoeven really starting to climb his way up through the order, currently in 8th position, so he's desperate trying to get back up to get those points, and he's well and truly within the points margin that he requires. 26 points to get the championship win here at Spa, but we know it's just a race series where anything can happen. Look at that lead for Ryan Parkins. Absolutely brilliant drive from himself so far. And we've got to remember, he has a teammate as well, Austin Greatorex, there in 4th position, up 2 positions from where he started. So it's a mega night for Strasser Porsche Sport, and obviously we'd expect nothing less from the series sponsor.
Yeah, and it's certainly been, as I mentioned on earlier as well, it's been a long time coming for all of the Porsche drivers, and I think a fair bit of frustration must have been building up as well, because so many of these drivers are properly quick, and they are very much used to being on the competitive side of things. So I can only imagine how much of a frustration it must be to have a car that has all of a sudden been hit so hard by the BOP that it's hard really to be anywhere in the mix of in the spicy end of things. So, as Ryan Walker seems to be going slowly there. And for whatever reason, it's hard for me to say, but Pim Bao makes short work of it. That's into Puhorn. And I will do my best not to say, oh well, Puhorn. Oh, he goes wide there. And look at that. That's just what we saw as we were cutting into it as well. The bit of a squirrely moment there. And the boat even squirrels about. The biggest of machines, the BMW M8. Pim Bao controlling it well. He seems to have a little bit of a drifty rear end to it, which is probably a good way to get the car rotating. Also, we had a good point from our very knowledgeable audience indeed, from Stephen DeWolf, that the BMW has not only lost downforce, Jack, but it's also lost some power indeed, which makes pretty good sense when you see the sort of shift there's been in the power balance. When looking at the running order at the moment, it's Porsche in positions 1, 3, and 4.
Yeah, it really has swung the way of Porsche, which is obviously amazing to see. It's brought everybody much closer together, because you can evidently see the BMWs are still well and truly up there, battling away with the other guys. It just means that everybody is much much closer together than previously anticipated. And there's still a Ferrari up in the mix. Sadly, no Fords here this evening. But Ryan Walker doing a good job at flying the flag for Ferrari, being one of the drivers, of the many, of course, that has shown up week in, week out. And I can't get over Ryan Parkin's lead. He said he was confident coming into tonight, but I wasn't expecting him to say you'd be in another continent. It's 3.2 seconds now, that lead. It's really starting to extend. Sam Bentham, I think, is just being, not necessarily held up, but he's just being preoccupied with the Team 11 Porsche behind of Ewan Marshall, and Austin Greatorex only 1.3 seconds behind, so he's within striking distance if something goes wrong. And then you go back another half second, you've got Robin DeVille, so the top, or from P2 to P5, really close together.
Yeah, we still got all the ingredients together for a really good race here, with a slightly reduced grid size than what we're used to seeing here in the SRW GT Pro Series. And Bud Boland, by the way, just a slight bit of further way back. He's ahead of Martin van Rooijbeek, and then Johnny Verhoeven. And I think, interestingly, Jack, Johnny Verhoeven seems to be on a very, I'd say, a humane pace today. He's certainly one of the gentlemen that is able to put down a sort of pace that's really eye-watering to try to keep up with. At least normally he's such a fast driver, super consistent as well, and really deserving of that top place in the championship standings that he looks to be keeping, and that he looks to be sealing the deal on this very night. But one thing I was really noticing is that he's not really gaining big time on either Van Rooijbeek or on Bud Boland, as you would have it, Jack. As I say it, I get to be proven wrong, and Johnny Verhoeven takes a huge chunk of time out of the two cars in front of him through the bus stop.
Yeah, it shows that a little gain here and a little gain there will massively increase your chances of catching up to the tail end of the car ahead, and it's also put him within striking distance of the car in front of him as well. Johnny Verhoeven, half a second behind Martin van Rooijbeek. If he can trail up to this alongside of him with the draft, it will massively put him in striking distance of Bud Boland in front as well. So he could get two for the price of one. Not on this lap though. Going down the Camel Straight, you can see the BMW is gaining. Both the cars behind Bud Boland are gaining, as you can see, but just not quite there yet. Clearly nailing his apexes and his exits through Rouge and Radeon. Bud Boland making sure he's nice and safe, heading in towards the Brussels hairpin. What can he do here? Looking forward now from Johnny Verhoeven. This must be a great battle to watch along with. And you can see on the tail end of that Simpac car, there's, I don't know, maybe he's driven backwards through a cow, because look what's on the underside of that rear wing.
Yeah, indeed, a little bit of a logo of something I know quite well indeed, and if you go on board with them, you'll see plenty of other funny things. We even had car design in the Simpac teams that had a little cat peeking out. Martin, who not only drives quite quickly indeed, but also is to my opinion at least, a pretty skilled livery maker. He seems to love putting these small Easter eggs into the liveries, and you can really spend quite some time actually just looking over the bits and bobs of the car, trying to figure out where he's put them, because he's not always super willing to actually tell you whenever he comes up with something new, which makes it all the fun. Back to the racing at hand here as Johnny Verhoeven goes wildly wide at Blanchimont, and he's going to be watching Martin van Rooijbeek go for it. I think he wants to go on the Sen as well. And it's a double whammy for Bud Boland, who gets passed not only by Martin van Rooijbeek, Jack, but by the car of Johnny Verhoeven as well.
Yeah, that was very good stuff there from the pair of them. Read the situation beautifully. Running wide once again, though, Johnny Verhoeven. That will have picked him up and off track. And then look at that jinx outside of the draft. Throws it to the inside. Bud Boland not willing to put up too much of a fight. And there you go. 2 positions made, or 2 positions lost for Pod Boland, but that means Verhoeven Van der Ewijk up another couple or another position. For the moment though, Van der Ewijk might be demoted back down to where he just was, because look at Johnny Verhoeven, he carries the momentum around the outside. Look at the overspeed squeezing him towards the track limits is Martin Van der Ewijk, but looking forward from him now, position made before he goes into Les Combes. Very late on the brakes from Van der Ewijk. We know he's confident behind the wheel of that Porsche, but there's nothing much he can do there. Puts as good of a fight up as he can, however nothing comes of that, and Ryan Parkins once again extending that gap now, Hasse, really starting to disappear into the distance.
Yeah, and it's what we would expect from a driver of his capabilities, of course. Van der Ewijk doing a good job here of keeping onto the tail end of Jennifer Hoff. Up ahead, by the way, the gap between Ryan Parkins and Sam Bentham is now up to 3.7 seconds. You can see the second place BMW right there, and Ewan Marshall is certainly not going anywhere. Though the Team 11 Porsche seems to have a little bit of trouble actually closing those final few tenths of a second up to that Ronin SimSport Academy BMW. The 89 car here seems to be well up for it. Oh, and does it show something of a pass here? I'd like to see if that's very much a thing, or that's the situation we saw before. It is very much the situation from before, Jack, with Johnny Verhoeven and Martin Van der Ewijk, but a good bit of racing here, and that's always something we'd like to watch again. I like to see this from Martin Van der Ewijk, by the way. He's not bowing out of it. He sure tries to take the fight to Johnny Verhoeven, but the effects of doing so can certainly be... Oh, and what's happened to Van der Ewijk while we're talking about it? He gets hit by the curse of the commentators indeed, and he loses the rear end, goes on a slide, and he manages to keep it on the gray stuff. The runoff, nonetheless, wise not to pick up that big sausage curb as well, and keeps the car all well and alive in the end, Jack.
Yeah, somehow managed to keep everything under control. Great driving from himself, but that won't have helped his battle at all. You can see Sam Bentham here having a good little battle with Ewan Marshall. Looking back now from Sam Bentham through Les Combes and then down the hill towards the Brussels hairpin. And it looks like this battle is much like one we saw at Belcar, Hasse. It fluctuates very evenly over a lap. At some corners they can be literally nose to tail, and Ewan Marshall can be pushing Sam Bentham around the corners, but then at other stages of the circuit it's like this. There's a bit of breathing space between the pair of them.
Yeah, and this is exactly what we want to see, this kind of different dynamics between the cars that tend to have a favor different portions, different parts of the track, if you will, different sectors. And it really makes for some good stuff, and it really makes it interesting as well when you're driving, because it becomes obvious that if I can just get a little closer through that first sector, I'll have him there, you know. And it's the feeling you're sitting with, and as a counter to that as well, you might be in the car just trying to achieve just that little bit of extra speed through a couple of corners, and you might end up making a dear mistake indeed, and facing the wrong way, or even worse, in the wall. So it's a long time stretched battle, or duel, if you will, between two cars like this. Is as much as a mental battle. I think that it's a battle of skill.
Absolutely, couldn't agree with you more there. A lot of it, I know we've seen a lot of it throughout the season. It can be a mental battle, just sitting on, not even really showing your intentions that you want to get by. Just maybe sat there enjoying the view, more or less, of the car ahead can almost force them into a mistake. They can get preoccupied with looking in their rear view mirror. Personal fastest lap for Pim Bauer, 1:13.205. Paul Gosling, personal fastest lap as well. And at the moment, Hasse, there's a bit of breathing space between everybody. Closest cars on the circuit are still Martin Van der Ewijk and Seb Herbera. Martin trying to make up for that earlier incident, and they're getting closer and closer and closer together. This is why they're on the Kemmel straight, and I said the Porsche was good in the draft. He's getting closer, within 0.2 of a second now. And I want to say they're too far apart, but we know what Martin's like on the brakes. Has a little look, has an even bigger look, and decides that maybe not this time, but we know what Martin's like. It will be this lap.
yeah, if he can get it lined up, if you just get that little bit closer into any sort of braking zone, you feel like he's going to go for it. Indeed, it's Pimbao in between or in behind these two, of course, looking to gain from any scraps that will be left over.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing, but just as we mentioned it before, he gets very close though. Pouhon, not really the corner where you want to go up the inside up anyone indeed, but he could maybe try for it through the next complex of Le Forge. That's the section of corners coming into Stavlo, and very much so, there he goes. Martin van Rooijweg, it seems Sepp Hebra, ever the gentleman, ever the wise driver indeed, he doesn't want to lose too much time on a battle that he can see might be pointless to have with van Rooijweg, especially considering that Pimbao is not too far behind. And he just sluts in behind the Porsche, and then you can see that pace through the Stabilos 1 and 2. Martin van Rooijweg clearly gaining on Hebra here. But 22 minutes of racing gone here, Jack, which means we're not too far from our first round of pit stops. And Johnny Verhoeven is up into 6th place by now. He's really... it's been slightly under the radar. We've seen a few good moves from him, especially the one into the bus stop, sneaking on through alongside Van Rooijweg there, and that was on Bart Boland, I believe. But he's certainly there, and I think he just wants to play it safe and to make sure that he picks up whatever points are needed. He's in a really good position to do so, and shouldn't feel too stressed at all. Now look at this, Jack, Sam Bentham under pressure from Ewan Marshall and the Team 11 Porsche.
Yeah, once again, these two glued together. Sam Bentham still the lead car, however, and Austin Greatorex has started to lose touch with the pair of them. I think that's just because he's preoccupied with Robin Deville. And we said that we were seeing two packs form. We're seeing two pairs form here. Ewan Marshall once again desperate to get by, but if he just sits on for a little while, he might save a little bit of fuel. Nowhere near enough to go an extra lap, but it will shorten his pit stop possibly. He might have to take maybe 1-2 litres less, which doesn't sound like much, but over a race it will greatly increase your chances of getting through the pit stop and through the pit lane much quicker. You can see Sam Bentham maybe slightly more confident through P1, a little bit quicker maybe on the throttle coming out. Ewan Marshall using all the curb, grabs the throttle there, closes up a tiny bit, but then once again they start to separate. And it's got pretty much an accordion effect, this battle, constantly getting closer, constantly getting further away, and I think the only thing that's going to separate them is going to be the first pit stop.
That is a good point, and we're coming up towards it. But we will expect the cars to be able to stretch it just beyond half an hour. That's the tendency we've seen over the last few rounds at least, that the drivers are just about able to do that. And if not, they're going to be having a problem, because if you could only do 28 minutes on a stop and the relatively reduced fuel tank sizes that we're running here, it's going to spell an extra pit stop, and that's certainly not what you want at all here. Lap 12, we are 24.5 minutes into this race, and Ryan Parkins leads Sam Bentham, Ewan Marshall, Austin Greatorex, and Robin Deville in 5th for Flemish Sim Sports, which is the car we're watching at the very moment. And in behind, it's Johnny Verhoeven, Bart Boland, Martin van Rooijweg, and Sepp Hebra, with Pimbao rounding off the top 10. Then it's Ryan Walker, Paul Gosling, and Neil Cooper, who is the first car in the pit lane, Jack. And let's just see if anything is a miss for Neil here. I think it might just be because of the damage that he's carrying here at 220.3 on his last lap here. That's certainly not good.
No, it looks like he maybe had some sort of an issue, or it was just him slowing himself down to get into the pit lane, and obviously rattling down the pit lane on the pit limiter will slow you down a little bit as well, of course, with the timing being after pit exit. So maybe it is just the first of his pit stops, but albeit a very early one. And still these two battles raging away. Sam Bentham and Ewan Marshall stuck together, Austin Greatorex and Robin Deville stuck together, and it's almost like the battles have been swapped, so to speak, because you've got a BMW leading Porsche and then a Porsche leading BMW, and this battle is slowly starting to get together as well. BMW leading BMW, Sepp Hebra and Pimbao. Expect Pim to be there or thereabouts on the pace with Seb as well. We've seen them have little battles as the season wears on. And like I say, Johnny Verhoef with that under-the-radar performance as of yet, he's still got lots of time to make up, obviously starting from the pit lane. But like you say, he's played it safe, and this battle's getting closer and closer together. Ewan Marshall chasing down Sam Bentham much closer this time, heading towards the bus stop. What will he decide to do? And once again, he just seems that little bit too far back, has a little look to the inside, jumps out back to the curb, and there you go. He's decided maybe not this time, and Ewan Marshall diving toward, or Sam Bentham, pardon me, diving towards the pit lane nice and early. Ewan Marshall, Austin Greatorex, and Johnny Verhoef all carrying on.
Yeah, nice and early you say, Jack, but my predictions might really be put to shame if it turns out that the cars are only able to do 28 minutes or so here, because it's going to spell 3 pit stops, and that's not something we've seen for any of these races so far. And if there is a such situation, it's going to spell huge advantages for whatever cars can maybe save that fuel and keep the cars running, and all of a sudden it's going to turn into a kind of eco challenge race where it's just all about not burning that extra fuel. Look at this here, Robin DeVille. He doesn't. No, you might have another view on things, Jack. It's not too often that we really disagree on things here, but Robin DeVille doesn't, to me, really seem to be attacking the car ahead at the moment. He seems to be, looked at this, he just gets in behind, even takes himself all the way to the left-hand side, coming into the right-hand hairpin that is Brussels, and clearly shows his intentions to Austin Greatorex up ahead, that he doesn't really want to fight him at the moment. And I think this is a big old exercise to try and just save some fuel. And in the meantime, Jack, I'm afraid we've had a problem for Seb Hebra.
What has happened to Seb then? That's a very sideways moment coming out of the Lecombe chicane and down towards Brussels. And I think that might be a little bit too much curb, or maybe applying the throttle and not really getting the car leveled out. Heading through the chicane. There is Robin DeVille once again on the tail end of Greatorex. This is for 3rd on the road. 4th once all is said and done with pit stops. But the Strasser Porsche Sport 911 RSR holding its own at the moment. You've got 3 Porsches leading 3 BMWs, and then Martin van der Eyck in 7th in a Porsche, followed by 4 BMWs, then a Ferrari, and then a final Porsche rounds out the runners. But at the moment, Porsche seem to have the edge at the moment.
Porsche is certainly on top of things, and we'll see just what caused that early pit stop. It could also be that the fuel situation is relaxed enough for the drivers for them to be able to pit a little early and not really suffer the consequences of it. And we'll have to see whether that's the case for Sam Bentham. But if it's not, and if it stays like it is with everyone else here, he's going to be in a tough spot from the spicy end of the race, the end, if you will, the final bits and bobs. Austin Greatorex now still ahead of Robin DeVille, half a second, splitting those two. And here is Paul Gosling now on the tail of Seb Hebra. And they've got that pink and black Quantum livery. And that was a special edition livery run to commemorate the birth of their good friend. I think it was David Fuller's daughter, if I'm very much not mistaken.
Yeah, I think you are correct there. I think it was David Fuller's newborn daughter that livery is commemorative of. You can see Paul Gosling there chasing down Seb Hebra, so close, jumps out to the outside, not the preferred line. Seb Hebra trying to make amends for that earlier spin, and Paul Gosling having none of it, wanting to get that position. And for the moment, we've seen battles like this. You think they're going to square each other up and maybe get the position made, and it doesn't really go anywhere. But you can almost tell just by the body language of Paul Gosling's car, he's desperate to get by.
Yeah, indeed, he wants to get up there. He wants to get ahead, and he wants to have free and clear track space ahead of him, and wants something just to sail into and away from. Oh, and I'm afraid, is that just another issue of Johnny Verhoef extending ever so slightly? Yes, that is classic Spa stuff, and I'm afraid we're going to see quite a bit of this. I've already had a few incidents that I could see was so short that they weren't real incidents. It was just a little bit of an off track, and of course it's not always worth to skip off and go away to look at. But Austin Gretorix still hanging on, and you know what? They're actually not too far away from the rear end of Ewan Marshall as well, Jack. I remember we were mentioning this at the very beginning of the race, some 15 laps ago, that that they were still close, and to be fair, they still are. It's just a second and a half.
Yeah, very, very close now. These two getting closer together. However, Austin Gretorix now having to start to think about what he's going to do with his pit strategy. You can see more cars in the pit lane. Martin van der Eewyck and Pimbau working their way along pit road, stopping in their respective pit boxes. This will drop them down the order right the way to the bottom as it stands. Robin de Ville slowly starting to lose touch, I think. Maybe just not quite keeping up with Austin Gretorix as much as he'd like. However, Gretorix is bringing himself and de Ville up towards the tail end of Ewan Marshall. So Ewan has got to decide as well what he is going to do about the encroaching danger of the two cars behind. Ryan Parkins, though, in that clean air, he's driving an absolute dream race.
He is. He's got a gap of 8 seconds now down to Ewan Marshall, and that's just grown and grown and grown by half a second a lap, an average here over the opening 15-16 laps. So it's been an absolute force of a show here from Ryan Parkins. And to be fair on Ryan Parkins, we know for a fact that as soon as he gets in a competitive car, he is a force to be reckoned with as well. Reigning Porsche Club GB champion here on Simracersworld TV as well. So certainly a gentleman that knows his way around a race car. While Ewan Marshall has lost a bit of time there, and it's gone relatively quickly. Might have just been a small mistake here and there, missing an apex or such. But interesting to see that Austin Gretorix is just looking to pick up the pieces there, maybe challenge for second place. Now we're going to go to Sam Bentham here, because he indeed went for that very early pit stop compared to the cars ahead, and he's now coming down towards Blanchiment. So the question is, how much clean air has Sam had and has been able to go around quickly enough to really make any gains from it? Remember, he came in from second place, so if all has gone according to plan for Sam Bentham, we'd expect him to come out ahead of Ewan Marshall. And let's just see whether that's going to work or not, as Ryan Parkins, our race leader, is in the pit as well, and he's now exiting. Sam Bentham, I think, is pass on Ewan Marshall is actually well past, Jack. That's quite the difference between the two.
Yeah, massive gap has formed between the pair of them, but look how close Gretorix is now to the tail end of Marshall. I think Ewan may be starting to worry a little too much about the delta, and look at that, Johnny Verhoeven has jumped Robin de Ville in the pit lane as well, so Robin down into 6th place, Johnny Verhoeven up into 5th, Gretorix still there in 4th, Ewan Marshall still there in 3rd, Sam Bentham in 2nd, and Ryan Parkins still out front. And Ryan Parkins, you might think, oh, I've got a bit of a gap, and maybe he's off a little bit, but I've got to plead with him here. He's got to keep his foot planted, because Johnny Verhoeven, he's on an absolute charge.
He really does. There's no time to play, no time to relax around or find yourself in the good old couch resting your legs whatsoever, because there is a championship leader on the tail end of things, and we certainly know what that spells. And when you see that Manatee livery, by the way, what a good looking car it is with the spec maps and everything. I really enjoy looking at the Manatee Racing designs, but it also certainly gives you the impression that you are indeed getting chased down by some aggressive giant insect, indeed out to come after you and eat you for lunch. And it has a certain bit of imposement about it.
Yeah, you got to say, you will definitely see him coming. There's no way you'd miss him. Well and truly on a charge up through the order, like you mentioned. And he's slowly catching on to the tail end of Gretorix, who was looking so strong. Really starting to get into his own. And he's lost touch with Ewan Marshall, maybe because he started to realise how close Johnny Verhoef is behind him, really closing up now. Both cars using all the track through Blanchimont up towards the bus stop. Johnny Verhoef quite happy to stick behind for the moment. Look how much he closes up on the brakes. That's so much later, and he still manages to get it slowed down. Let's see what he can do out of the bus stop. Now driving towards La Source. Has a look over to the left, maybe pre-anticipating the draft. Does he send one to the inside? Not quite this time, but if he doesn't get him here, he'll get him on the run-up towards Eau Rouge and Raidillon, and if he still doesn't get him there, it will be on the Camel Straight.
Yeah, for sure, and very much so that he just ate into the advantage of Austin Gretorix in front coming into the bus stop. It's not the first time tonight we've seen Johnny Verhoef do that very thing. And he seems to be able to brake, 10, 15 meters later than everybody else into that bus stop chicane. Whether that be car setup or pure muscle power and control as well. It's a question that I'll have to be guilty of not being able to answer at the moment. Just the only thing I can really say, Johnny Verhoef absolutely flying. He's gone through the field and he's up into 5th place after starting from the pit lane. And I'm afraid, Jack, we've had a bit of an issue for the Simpack car. Oh, that's relatively benign. There's no problem whatsoever. It's another a bit of a cheater there.
Yeah, when you said it was an issue, and obviously the tone of your voice, I was expecting him to hit the gravel and then spear towards the Armco, but somehow he managed to keep it pointing in the right direction and continues on without too much of an issue. Look at this battle now. Johnny Verhoef well and truly on the tail end of Austin Greatorex through Stavelot 1 up towards Stavelot 2. Both cars using the track limits. And now through Stavelot 2 on the run up towards Blanchimont. A bit of a straight, so to speak. Johnny Verhoef tucked underneath the rear wing, getting all the aerodynamic benefit as is available to him from the Strasser Porsche Sport car. Has a little look up the inside, and he's gonna have to get him on the bus stop, or at the bus stop on the brakes. We know how confident he is on the brakes. Like you say, just slightly got the edge. Has a little look. No, maybe not this time by either. I was expecting Johnny Verhoef to be in front come the end of this lap.
I don't think he really had the space to squeeze in there through, but look how close he is to the car in front now, and I think Austin Greatorex can almost smell and feel the sauerkraut in behind from the BMW. And I was just about to say it's almost before Johnny Verhoef can put his hand out the window and actually touch the rear wing of that Strasser Porsche Sport machine as well. The question is, did Verhoef pick up a penalty there? I don't think so. I think he lost a little speed just trying to keep it in, but it was very close to the edge of track limits indeed. And by the way, look at that gap up ahead, up to Ewan Marshall. That's smoldering away as well. So Austin Greatorex is certainly getting pushed into a competent pace as well, as he wants to be able to defend his position. And the only real way of doing so is to not making mistakes like this. Oh, and Verhoef is on the outside, which is not the place he wants to be. And he's going to be left for dead out there. It's going to be a dangerous position, I believe Greatorex just... Is he going to give the position? No, he's not. He's not giving anything away without a fight there. And things are really heating up between these two.
Yeah, definitely. You can see the time it's lost him to Ewan Marshall up the inside. Now Johnny Verhoef has a little look up the inside, throws it to the outside, won't get the move done there. Up towards Stavelot 1. Look at that. Greatorex desperately defending his position here, trying to make sure he can keep that Manatee Racing BMW behind, almost pushing each other through Stavelot 2 there. And now heading towards Blanchimont. Austin Greatorex looking to defend here, going this way and that. There is Ewan Marshall up the road. There is the battle we're looking at, Austin Greatorex and Johnny Verhoef. Come on, Johnny, what can he do on the brakes? Is he going to give us something to shout about, or is he just going to sit behind once again? Hasse, what do you think?
Well, it looks like another sitter from Johnny into the bus stop, but he's trying to line it up this time around. He gets a very, very good exit compared to Austin Greatorex, but Austin seems to be able to just marshal him towards the outside. He breaks to the other side, and this time it might be a late dive into La Source. He goes for it, but he's not able to go late enough through there. Is he early enough on the throttle? Not really, though. He seems to be slightly frustrated with this Johnny Verhoeven, as he really doesn't need to be unless he thinks he has to go for an all-out win here today, which doesn't really seem to be necessary for him, at least that in my mind. Welcome to Mew. Of course, welcome to Carl Sharkey, Anson Dupin, Hendrik de Grave, and Kim Beheid as well. You other lads, I think I got you earlier on as well. And of course, our lovely sponsor, Porsche Sport, which makes all of this great racing possible in the first place, alongside Strasse, alongside Dynamics, and Abruzzi as well. And we might be looking at a slightly reduced grid for this race, Jack, but the drivers on the grid tonight are certainly putting on a good show.
Yeah, they really are. Definitely showing us how it's done, battling away as always. You can see now Johnny Verhoeven had a little look up the inside, definitely somewhere where you don't want to go too wide. And somehow, Austin Greatorex is still in front, hanging on to 4th position. I think, possibly, he might be talking to his teammate as well, getting Greatorex to hold Verhoeven up as much as possible, giving Ryan Parkins that extra little gap that he might need. It might become so important at the end of the race. Johnny Verhoeven having a little look at the inside through Tableau 2. Somehow, Austin Greatorex is still in front, chops across the nose there, and then on the run up towards Blanchimont, what can Verhoeven do? And like I said, this could be maybe a bit of team tactics. If Greatorex can hold Verhoeven up, it just makes Ryan Parkins lead that extra bit further, lap by lap by lap, and it could come in so important come the end of the race.
Yeah, it really could. Mind you, we're just under halfway through the race at the moment, and we are looking at 12 seconds of an advantage from Ryan Parkins down to Johnny Verhoeven at the moment. And the fact that Verhoeven isn't really able to close down on that gap at this point of the race and at this particular moment could turn out to be the game changer come the end of it. So we're going to have to keep our eyes open for it. I have to say at the moment, Austin Greatorex is certainly being his weight worth in gold for his team in the effort he's putting in to keep Johnny Verhoeven in behind. Austin Greatorex there, a very good drive so far here as they exit the Eau Rouge and Raidillon complex down towards the Lecombe chicane on the Camel Straight, rises all the way up, and it seems to me, Jack, for once this season, the BMW just isn't really able to close it in a straight line. So, interesting stuff here, and you can see Johnny Verhoeven is having to really battle away. He isn't able to just make a short process out of anyone, and that's, after all, nice to see here. I'm afraid, though, I have to see this because we've had a bit of a problem for Paul Gosling, who goes around, and that's in No Name, who's no longer No Name. I think it's Jackie X corner by now. And he's had another bit of trouble as well. This might be a bit earlier as he goes deep into the gravel and into the soft barrier as well at Brussels, Jack.
Yeah, just tapping the barrier on the gravel. Couldn't get it slowed down now through Raidillon over the top. Johnny Verhoeven and Austin Greatorex are battling so hard. Robin DeVille is now catching up to the tail end of them as well. So they're slowing each other down a hell of a lot. And I still can't believe that Austin Greatorex is in front. He's been battling him so hard. This is an absolutely amazing defensive drive from Johnny. And yeah, like you said, this really just brings a new dynamic to the championship. The BMW seem to be far and away disappearing into the distance. And now the Porsche is back in the mix once again. I think that could be something to do with the minimised grids. Just with the BMW being slightly nerfed, it means that maybe a few of the drivers not really happy to drive a car that isn't as competitive. But you can see the BMW well and truly there, catching up to the tail end of Greatorex once again, up towards La Source. So I'm expecting him to throw the car over to the right-hand side. Nope, stays exactly on the painted line. Yet again, reeling in this battle is Robin DeVille. And I think that was just because Johnny Verhoeven was wise to the move there. If he threw it up the inside, it would leave him vulnerable for the Camel Straight. Let's see what he can do this time by. Austin Greatorex leads the pair up Eau Rouge over Raidillon. And then in towards Camel Corner, and then down Camel Straight. What can Johnny Verhoeven do? Looking at the gap, it's coming down. It's still coming down little by little by little. And then on the brakes, he's lifting off nice and early there, Johnny Verhoeven. So maybe starting to think about we're slowing each other down so much. What's the point? Why don't we just sit on, help each other, make inroads on Ewan Marshall? I've got to say it's working because Robin DeVille's dropping back. Ewan Marshall is getting closer, and it also means Johnny Verhoeven is saving fuel.
Yeah, I was just about to say the fact that he's really saving fuel might be the thing that really helps him get past Austin Gretorix in the end. And meanwhile, I think they've actually caught back a bit of time on Ryan Parkins as well, because it's back to 11.7 seconds. Robin DeVille, I should say, he's lost a little time, and they're very much still in contact with Ewan Marshall, about a second and a half ahead of the pair we're watching at the moment. Very much the fight of the field, as Van Roobeck as well has gotten past on Bud Boland, which didn't happen too long ago here, and it's into La Source. I think Bud Boland might just be a little late on things there, or he might plain just be letting Martin through. I'm not quite sure about that, but a fairly undramatic move in that situation whatsoever. Here still Austin Gretorix, and you know what, Jack? 3.5 tenths. It's not going to be close enough for him to, or at least so I say. Let's see here through Blanchimont. Is it going to be close enough for him to try a lunge up the inside into the bus stop? Nope. Yet another time, and it just feeds to the possibility of the theory being correct, that he's just trying to save fuel from now.
Yeah, it could be a good little tactic. He's thinking, if you're slowing me down so much, I could be saving so much fuel just sat behind you. So that is what Johnny Verhoeven, of what I think, and I believe what you think as well, so that's just what he's doing, working the strategy play. There is our leader, Ryan Parkins, well and truly in the lead, for almost 5 seconds ahead of Sam Bentham now. Really got the bit between his teeth tonight, using all the curb, a bit of the drain on the inside of Camel Corner. Now down the Camel Straight, and diving towards the calm, hard on the brakes as the curb starts, throws it towards the right, can use all the curb there, maybe introducing a little bit of understeer now, could be something to do with setup, but he's really starting to pilot that Porsche around at a massive rate of knots. There is Sam Bentham, there is Ewan Marshall, there is Gretorix, and of course there is Johnny Verhoeven, all getting close to Sam Bentham. 5 seconds off Ryan Parkins, and then 5 seconds back from himself is Ewan Marshall. And now Johnny Verhoeven really closing up to the tail end now. Look at that, Hasse. Both of them pushing each other around. And Johnny Verhoeven, I mean, I don't know how he's doing it. He's got to be saving loads of fuel, because I'm pretty sure just with the draft he'll be able to get around without touching a pedal.
You'd believe him just to be pulled along by the aerodynamic forces indeed. And by the way, Carl Sharkey's not racing tonight because his wheel blew up today, and that's certainly bad to hear. That's poor luck, and I'm quite sorry to hear that, Carl. And sorry not to have you racing anyways. And I feel like he's not the only one that this sort of ill fate has befallen onto, because we've had stories of numerous drivers having rigs going wrong and job situation changing and whatnot. That's been contributing factors to the decimation we've seen at the SRW GT Pro field, and in turns, because I know for a fact that Jordan McClone, the second Simpac driver, is absolutely over his head and at work at the moment, and that's as far as I've understood the reason that he's not racing, and I think an unlucky combination of circumstances making it look like everybody's basically deserted the series without it's actually what's been happening.
Yeah, it's not ideal at all. It's just been a rather down year all round. Although, Carl, if you are still watching along, your wheel has blown up, which obviously is terrible, but you know what that means. It's time for an upgrade. It means you have an excuse to spend to spend money on a better wheel. I'm not sure what you had to start off with, but it does mean now it is time for an upgrade. Of course, if something breaks, instead of just buying it again, buy a better one. That's obviously how you fix it. Ewan Marshall there in third. What have you seen, Hasse?
Yeah, well, nothing. I just saw Ewan Marshall sliding a bit, and then Austin Gretorix closing a few tenths. Welcome, Thomas, by the way. Nice to have you along. And as you see, that gap now starts to grow as well. So it might be that it's not even between the dynamics of the cars that we're watching, but also very much between the setups that they're running. Because it seems to me that Ewan Marshall, every time we go through the first sector, he's a little slower then Gretorix and Johnny Verhoeven as well. They seem to be closing in through the first sector up to, from the source basically, and up to the top of Camel Strait. And then through the middle sector and through here as well, he just extends the advantage to make it pretty much status quo as when they started out the lap. Indeed, Austin Gretorix, again, he must be feeling the heat by now, but at the same time beginning to maybe understand that Johnny Verhoeven isn't too interested in bringing the fight to him just now, at least. And Austin also, I think he knows what's coming at the next round of pit stops.
Yeah, he definitely needs to start thinking about his strategy. And Austin Gretorix, I think he's realised what Johnny Verhoeven's play is. Obviously, he's saving so much fuel sat behind that Porsche. And I think Gretorix is going, well, hang on a minute, why is he the only one that should be saving fuel? I can do it as well. So he's catching up to the tail end of Marshall, and he'll probably end up saving a little bit of fuel behind him as well. Robin DeVille's still there in the background, and I'm not sure what's happening with the track temp, Hasse, but like you say, it could be something to do with setup, could be something to do with tyre wear, and maybe something to do with the changing track conditions here. There we go, 90 degrees, a very cool track, so lots of grip out there. Passing 10 o'clock in the morning, and I've got to say, I thought it was an evening. It seemed very almost, it looked like dusk, but no, 10 o'clock in the morning, and that does mean, however, as the day wears on in Sim, the track's only going to get hotter.
Yeah, although I think with just over half an hour's worth of racing left to do here, that might just not really be enough space for it to really heaten up. I think we get sort of injured by the 24-hour broadcast and the long prospects in well, any sort of race basically. But indeed, it's cool. And indeed, it's going to help the drivers take care of their tires. And I think, as and come to think of it, actually, I was just about to say, I think we're not going to see any tire swaps. But just thinking back on the course of the season, Jack, I don't think we've seen a single tire swap at all this season.
No, I don't think. No, well, nothing major anyway. I think. Occasionally we've seen a driver maybe have a rather large incident, and obviously with their with the iRacing fast repairs enabled, of course, you do have I think it's 2 available to you, and maybe some drivers have just, oh no, you only get 1 fast repair, but I think some drivers maybe just put on a fresh set of tyres to go for fastest lap. That can always look quite good on the race results, of course, as well. Austin Gretorix still maybe not defending anymore, just more than happy to sit with Johnny Verhoeven behind him. And then Ewan Marshall is slowly coming under attack as well, which does mean that obviously Gretorix will be slowly starting to save more and more fuel, but Johnny Verhoeven really reaping the rewards here. He's gained so much fuel over the past couple of laps, and as the pair of them are starting to gain on Marshall, he's going to only gain more and more fuel in theory over Gretorix. Whether that means he'll gain an extra lap or it's just less time in the pit lane, of course. But this final pit stop could be the final nail in the coffin for his championship. It will more or less just secure it.
Very much so, and just looking up ahead, the gap really has exploded from, here comes Gretorix on Ewan Marshall, who might have had a penalty or something on this lap. I'm not quite sure, actually. It's not something I can really see, but he was going pretty slowly all of a sudden. And Gretorix is up into 3rd place, and now it's a new car to contend with. This might spell a new situation. And Jack, do you reckon Johnny Verhoeven is going to be pressing to get on through on Ewan Marshall, or it's just going to be rinse-repeat from being behind Gretorix?
I think with the way he's been playing that battle, he might just sit on with Ewan Marshall, knowing that the next pit stop window is closing. And maybe with this fuel saved, he might just be able to pit a couple of laps later or a lap later, or just spend less time in the pit lane like I mentioned. But at the moment, it's all swinging the way of Austin Gretorix. He's kept behind championship hopeful Johnny Verhoeven, and he's now got free road up ahead. Looking back now from Austin Gretorix, you can see Ewan Marshall and Johnny Verhoeven both trailing along now. But Austin Gretorix and Strasser Porsche Sport, it's been a good night for them. Ryan Parkins out in the lead, 6 seconds now, a massive gap.
Indeed, it's really grown for Ryan Parkins. 6 seconds though. Haven't Sam Bentham been pretty much putting a claw into him and at least keeping its stat quo since the last round of pit stops? I pretty much think so. But interestingly, the gap down to these gentlemen hasn't really improved too much, as we have a bit of a what looks like a Russian dash cam to me here from the car of Johnny Verhoeven, courtesy of Martin van Rooijk's camera pack here. A few angles from the different cars that we haven't actually gotten around to playing with too much, and this is certainly not a bad one indeed. But he goes into the pit stop, and I'm surprised to say I was expecting him to stay out longer. He's coming before the other cars, and it's now effectively he'll be trying to undercut indeed, which might just work out for him. He knows he has the fuel to do so. There's a 33, just over 33 minutes of racing remaining here. And it's a good point to be mentioned as well that even with the pace they're seeing on track, at least for a long time, the Porsche 911 RSR has been quite a lot more economical running than the BMW M8. So it could be that they're actually not too far from one another in the end here, with even with all the fuel saving that's been going on. Good point by Thomas. Corner cutting at Werrell can indeed be a pain. Corner cutting at many places here at Spa can be a pain, but mostly you're just going to pick up incident points, and Werrell is actually going to give you a slowdown. Although I want to say, with regards to the slowdowns, Spa's not as bad as Le Mans. And they've actually made it better as well, but it's still bad. It's still bad on the exit of Dunlop. It's still bad on the exit of Tetra Rouge, and it's still bad on the exit of Virage Corvette as well. Enough about Le Mans anyways. We're at Spa. We have some really good racing going on, and now it's two Porsches here. It's between the Strasse Porsche Sport machine of Austin Greatorex and the Team 11 car here of Ewan Marshall, the number 18 machine, who really seems to be pushing on at the moment. And do you think it's going to be this time into the pits for him, Jack? Or do you reckon they're going to stay out for another lap? I didn't even give you the chance to answer that one, and the answer is already presented itself.
Yeah, so evidently the strategy's starting to show their hand. Johnny Verhoeven, even after pitting way earlier than anybody else, is still sat there in ninth. Pinbow just up the road from himself. There is Bod Boland chasing down Martin van der Rohe. You can see Pinbow just behind, obviously with these guys still yet to pit as well. And I think, yeah, nobody has pitted since Johnny Verhoeven peeled off. Ryan Walker was the first to pit, pitting on lap 25. Johnny Verhoeven pitting a lap later on lap 26. Neil Cooper now pulling into the pit lane as well. And I think the place to watch has got to be either this little battle for 6th or the guys up in 3rd, 4th and 5th.
Yeah, indeed, and this has flown under the radar for us as well, as Paul Gosling takes a spinner. And I am afraid something has gone wrong with the car at the earlier incident he had. We saw him hitting the wall pretty hard after going into the gravel trap at Brussels. And now I'm afraid Paul Gosling is our first and so far only retiree of the race. Here's Martin van Rooijk, 6th place for him, as he's really battling with the Manxman Bod Boland of Meraki Racing. And Van Rooijk, who's had really good pace through the season on several occasions and tonight as well, but seems to have just ever so slightly lacked the consistency to really be up there as well. And now back with the battle for 3rd place, still going on between the two Porsches of Austin Greatorex and Ewan Marshall. And they were for so long joined by Johnny Verhoeven, who took an early pit stop. The question is, Jack, if they start really battling away with one another, the two Porsches here, they're going to be easy pickings for Verhoeven, who has clear track space in behind at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, these two can't battle any more than they have to. Sam Bentham now pulling into the pit lane, which will give Austin Greatorex 2nd on the road for the moment, though. You can see in the background Robin Neville still following on Sam Bentham in the pit lane. There he is, heading towards his pit box. Martin van der Eyck, Bod Boland, Pim Bauer will be the next cars to pass the pit lane if they all decide to stay out. We'll have to keep a keen eye on that one. But that one there, Johnny Verhoeven, he's on an absolute charge. Look at that, the car on the ragged edge, right on the edge of Adhesion. In towards the bus stop, using all the track. Bit of curb on the brake as well. Hitting the curb on the right, hitting the curb on the left. And there you go, nice and smooth out the final corner. Slight kick of oversteer up through the gearbox. Crossing the line now to complete lap number 27 on to lap number 28. And Johnny Verhoeven, he really just has got something else, hasn't he?
Yeah, he really does. And you don't lead a championship like this without having bucket loads of talent to really show with the skills. And he certainly does here. Paul Gosling still out. I just thought for a moment that he was back running because the timing screen made it look that way. I'm afraid it's not. But indeed, mute Johnny Verhoeven. As you can see here, he does have clean air, and he's only 3 seconds behind Sam Bentham as Bentham leaves the pit. And that does not bode well at all for Gretorix or for Ewan Marshall, who was 6 seconds behind Sam Bentham as Bentham went in. So if Sam Bentham's time, so these drivers are anything to go by, they're going to be in a tough spot of bother indeed. It all really depends. You could say, Thomas, that the undercut was an attempt to get past on Sam Bentham indeed, but he was a little bit behind. I think the direct battle was Verhoeven against these two. And against these two, well, we haven't had him in yet. We'll have to see 27.5 minutes of racing remaining here from Spa Francorchamps in the very picturesque foresty and also if I could just get the word out my mouth. It's something to do with the weather being unpredictable in Belgium. Let me just put it that way. I'm not gonna just run my head into a brick wall trying to say a word that won't come out. I'm just gonna try to figure out some other way of saying it. Indeed.
You can see this battle still raging away. Ewan Marshall isn't going to be complaining because this is going to be prime time for him to save plenty of fuel. Up through a Rouge, then over Radion. And the pair of them, it looks like Gretorix maybe got the better run of the two. There is Robin DeVille still following on. That's going to be very close to the exit of track limits. And the entry, of course, over Radion. Is he continuing on? He is. Is he losing time? Maybe a little bit, but I don't think that will have been a slowdown for himself. But the Porsche pair still together. And like you say, with Johnny Verhoeven being only 3 seconds now back from Sam Bentham, that is all swinging the way of himself, because that means Ryan Parkins, his lead will have come down from 12 seconds to about 9 by the time he leaves the pit lane, on top of what he can gain before that. So Johnny Verhoeven well and truly there or thereabouts, looking for another win this season. As it stands, he will have the points to win the championship, 26 required. Once everybody's pitted, he will be well and truly within that margin. But now we have a Strasser Porsche Sport Car P1, P2, and I think that was just a change of position there.
A change of position, where indeed, like...
I think that was, yeah, Van der Eyck passing Bod Boland, lap 28.
We'll have to just see about that.
Maybe not.
No, it was quite a bit of time ago he got passed on Bod Boland. This is the two cars passing whoever's sat still in the pit at that very time in the race. So some say life is like a box of chocolates, Thomas. I usually say life is like a Belgian Spring Classic bike race. Indeed, unpredictable. Austin Gretorix, Ewan Marshall within half a second of one another. Now Robin DeVille taking it to the pits, and surprisingly, or not surprisingly so, unsurprisingly, if you will, the 911s are going very, very far into this final stint before making their pit stops. So we might have to pull it back a little bit in terms of our thoughts of just how the standings are going to look once we've had everyone in the pits here. Martin van der Eyck goes in here. It's on lap 30 as well, with just under 25 minutes left of racing. He's got Pim Bauer right behind, who's looking to really gain from it. Same for Robin DeVille, who's in the pits as well. Bentham is already passed. Verhoef is, of course, as well, already passed. And just how far behind are those two cars at the moment, Jack? We're looking at sort of 26 seconds from Ewan Marshall down to Bart Boland, and a pit time of... Oh, that's not going to be enough. I think Bentham is going to get passed, and I think Verhoef is going to get passed as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, it does look that way. Definitely. Sam Bentham, the next target for Johnny Verhoef. Bod Boland, target after that. Although we've still got the top 4 yet to pit, of course. And it's currently a Porsche top 3, Porsche podium as it stands, but Johnny Verhoef is well and truly looking to get back up there. And of course, with Sam Bentham being up the road, he's going to be more or less panicking now, Hasse, knowing that that the championship hopeful is wanting to get past and get into the distance. So it might force Sam Bentham to drive quicker. So the only man that will stop them is the man that's coming into the pit lane now, Ryan Parkins.
Yeah, indeed. Ryan Parkins seems to have this under control. At this point of the race, I'm having a very hard time seeing just who it should be to take it out of his hands here. Gretorix and US Marshall are going a little lively into the pit box indeed here. And it's an entrance that we've seen get the better of many a driver. So easy to get it wrong. And we've seen cars get even wedged in the pit entry here in humorous fashions, I want to say, and that's only the entrance, because it can even be worse if you just clip the apex a little too much of the right-hander coming out of the pits. I'll show you Ryan Parkins here and hope he doesn't do it. But if you clip that apex on the inside there, it's not that bad on the F1 layout, the one that we're using today, but with the full pits of the endurance layout, and you have to stay in the pit all the way down the hill, only to exit at the top of the hill up by Werrell, then you can really find yourself tipping the car over on the roof with that inside wall. And I know that from a fair bit of experience.
Yeah, I've got to say, on multiple occasions I have fallen foul of the Spa pit lane. Like I said, it catch the best of us out. Nicky Team, someone that springs to mind that has managed to get caught out with the Spa pit entrance. There is Sam Bentham, only 9 seconds behind Ryan Parkins. I guess that would be the gap. Johnny Verhoef, 2.8 behind Sam Bentham. Ewan Marshall there, 2.1 behind. Johnny Verhoef, a little look there for Austin Greatorex. And you can tell that Austin is desperate to get back up into 4th position, desperate to get back past Ewan Marshall. There is Robin DeVille still chasing down the Porsche pair. There's Bod Boland for Meraki Racing. Martin van der Eeuwijk in hot pursuit with Pim Bao now there as well, following along. And everybody seems to be wedging closer and closer together with this second pit stop being made.
We're coming into the final 20 minutes of racing, and it's looking to really heaten up across the field. And I don't think we really could be asking for more, Jack. I'll leave all the analogies and stupid jokes aside and try to concentrate on the racing indeed here. Although I do love having fun, there is a bit of racing to be watched here. And Ewan Marshall certainly losing out a little bit. The big loser there, I feel like, is Gretorix, who didn't only lose to Verhoef. We expected that, but he's out behind Ewan Marshall as well, with all the work to do to regain the podium position at the moment. And a point of light, though, for the Porsches and for Strasse Porsche Sport in particular is the dominant way Ryan Parkin has really been able to just take a stranglehold of this race and just drive off into the distance at the moment. His gap is 8.7 seconds, so he's gained 2 seconds over Sam Bentham over the course of these last pit stops. And Bentham seems to have more to do now to defend from Johnny Verhoef, who somehow has gone up right through the ranks to be really closely contesting that second place. Then he will have to do trying to catch back Ryan Parkins up ahead.
Yeah, definitely got his work cut out. However, I feel like Ewan Marshall as well is going to be there defending from Austin Greatorex. Johnny Verhoef a little too far up the road for any sort of battle to develop between the pair of them. So I think if Johnny Verhoef is going to get with anyone, it will be Sam Bentham. However, those two are slowly starting to separate, and maybe Johnny Verhoef, he had a mega first stint, an even better second stint, and his third stint, he's just slowly started to fall off the pace. I think he's more or less totting up what to do with the championship. Ewan Marshall on the outside, and Greater X had a little look, but didn't really force the move there. Ewan Marshall struggling to shake off the attentions of Austin Greater X, but yeah, like I was saying, Johnny Verhoeven, I think he's just totted up his cards and he's gone, yeah, you know what, I've got enough to win the championship. Instead of taking too many risks and overdriving the car, I'm happy where I am. It's another podium to my books, and hopefully the championship, but that is all to come though. Martin van der Eeuwik is there in the middle of two BMWs, the Porsche in the BMW sandwich. It's Bod Boland in front and Pinbao behind.
Yeah, indeed it is, and it's a good old battle for 7th place going on at the moment. Indeed, Carl Sharkey, it's a very good race for a field this size, and I think a lot of the time you'd have to find fields quite a bit better in order to get things spiced up to this degree. And Bod Boland, talking of spice, gets a very rotational BMW on his way through Brussels and is now really feeding the heat yet again from Martin van der Eeuwik as they go into Poohorn. And I did get to say Poohorn once and not Poohorn, and I swear that was unintentional, as they go up towards Le Forge, which I incidentally called Le Combe earlier, or was it the other way around? I made a mistake on it, and I do apologize. Anyway, it's Stavelot up next for him. Stavelot's 1 and 2, and that's of course the name so because it lies close to the village of Stavelot, not too far away from this racetrack indeed. This straight, you talked about it earlier, Jack, as the Little Straight. It is indeed not as long as the Camel Straight. It does have a name. It's named after Paul Frère, which means Paul brother, or brother Paul, or Paul brother. It is Van Rijwijk with a twitchy moment there on the exit of Blanchimont, and that's not a place you want to lose the car whatsoever. He keeps it. Really lucky for himself in this battle for 7th. Is staying alive for now up ahead. Ewan Marshall, Austin Gretorix is still in the same running order as before. And for a couple of cars who seem to have a shot at podium position, I don't want to be too happy at this. Here comes Gretorix though, into Le Combe, and he's ahead well and clear. And it really looked to be the way it was swinging. Anyways, Jack, talk us through the overtake.
So you can see he's gaining down the Camel Straight, and like I say, into Le Combe, up the inside and into 4th position for Austin Greater X and Strasser Porsche Sport. Great little textbook move there from himself, and Ewan Marshall dropping back. That was the fastest Sector 1 from any driver set this race by Austin Greater X, obviously massively helped by the draft assistance, but we'll give him that one. That was a textbook overtake, and still Bod Boland leading this trio, with Martin van der Eeuwik just behind, also thinking about Pinbao in his rearview mirrors as well there to pick up the pieces if it all goes wrong. A great camera angle. This is looking back from Martin's car. You can see Pinbao trying to get by as well, hold up the banner at 4G drive, maybe a little bit slower through the twisty bit there for Pim, and then you can see the Porsche of Martin van der Eeuwik well and truly there, looking to get past Bod Boland. And with only 15 minutes of the race remaining, Hasse, this is the last chance some of these drivers will get to pick up a position. Yeah,
it's coming to that end of the race where it's really now or never, and it's time for decisive action to make it count. And Van Rijwijk, he knows that. He's been battling Bod Boland for so long this race, and he's really trying to find his way through. But the Manxman is not an easy one to negotiate with, it seems, and he's rather stubborn in his defense from the Dutchman in behind. So Martin, maybe we will be hoping that the rainbow attire of his car will be throwing off the Manxman in front, and this time he's very close into the bus stop, and I think he's going to be sending it up the inside. Oh, it's not going to be close enough. And Bod Boland, as Bod Boland goes a little bit wider, might that just upset his exit from the bus stop down towards the source. I think Martin van Rijwijk will be hella close indeed. They might be sided as by side, and the Dutchman, actually, I think, just holds off, think better of it, knows that, okay, that outside line, that corner, it's never really going to work anyways, and just have to try to line it up. And by the way, really good defending there from the Manxman to keep the Dutchman behind indeed there. And Pinbao got front row seats to the battle. He'll have to stay concentrated not to get zoned out from just watching the battle up ahead, but it might just be that entertaining. All the while up ahead, it's still Gretorix it's still Ewan Marshall as well, and they're going at it as they have been for a fair bit of time now as well. Up ahead, just to finish it off and just to give you the complete overview of things, it's Ryan Parkins now leading by 9.6 seconds, so almost 10 seconds of a gap down to Sam Bentham in second place in the Ronin Sim Sports BMW, and that means that Ryan has increased his advantage over the last few laps here, and he's looking ever so much in a very strong position to take the first win of the season so far. Anyway, here is Bentham, second place, and we'll just be watching the gap down to Jennifer Hove, which is currently 3.6 seconds. And surprisingly, Jack, that means that Jennifer Hove has actually lost a little bit of time, as far as I can see, at least to Sam Bentham.
Yeah, definitely. We knew the time was coming down, and it's slowly starting to go back up again. The gap between the pair of them, Ewan Marshall going for a bit of a skip and a jump over the curbs, trying to chase down Austin Greater X for that position he lost a few laps ago. And got to say, standout for me so far has got to be Ryan Parkins, having got out in front, built that gap, and having the weight of the world bearing down on you, knowing that Johnny Verhoeven will be in hot pursuit. He hasn't taken his foot off the gas at all, constantly lapping in the 212s. To put that into perspective, he is the only driver still lapping in the 212s, so a very, very quick stint from himself. Another look back at this overtake, Austin Greater X through towards Les Combes and up into fourth position made. That's how it happened, and look at the gap between the pair of them now. Oh, look how close this battle is, Hasse.
Yeah, indeed, I just saw it. I just had a glance to my left-hand side on our timing screen. I can just see this time around Martin van Rooijk's not waiting around. He's trying for it. He wants to set it up on the outside. He's trusting that the weight over the rear tires of the Porsche 911 might just give him that little bit extra traction that he needs, but he doesn't get it, and he's not going to be able to make it side by side into Eau Rouge and through Rayon. He's just going to be trying to get the run yet again on the BMW ahead. It might be better this time for him, but look at all the battling. It's inviting Pimpao inside as well, and this is exactly what they didn't want, I think. Just making this a three-way scrap for seventh place. But look at this Pimpao with a huge overspeed, almost collecting Martin van Rooijk. And I think a little bit of squidliness there for a moment or two, because they weren't really braking at the points where they were used to doing so. And I think that looked a little bit unexpected for Pimpao. A close call indeed. By the way, not the dashboard. I wanted to show you track temp, so you shall see track temp. Good point there. 20 degrees indeed it is, Sharky, and which is also why we're expecting the tires of the cars to have had a chance to stay alive for this long, because with the track temp of 35 to 40 degrees and an hour and a half of racing, they would be absolutely cooked by now. Look at this, Martin van Rooijk now getting the run on Bart Boland yet again, but he's on the outside into the Porsche. And I'm not quite sure he's going to be able to sneak up through there, though they did make it up with a little bit of overlap, though not enough to really get in there. Into Stabilo they go, and Pimpao must be licking his lips for at the sight of what's happening up ahead here. And it's really heating up now as we're heading into the final 10 minutes of the race. And these drivers, I have to say, has given us an absolutely brilliant show tonight, and such good racing. And of course, Spa, as I said in our intro here, certainly seems to be one of the best places for motor racing in general here. Van Rooijk's having a look up the outside of the bus stop, and this time he has his nose ahead going in. Oh, and Bart Boland just slides through and somehow manages not to collect the cars of either Van Rooijk or Pimpao. And we're gonna have another look at that immediately, Jack. And we're gonna have to ask for a bit of help in explaining just what happened.
Yeah, so look at this. Martin van Rooijk, he even got a bit of a slide on, which I think saved him. We will have to go back and ride on board with Van Rooijk through there. And look how close this gets. You can see Murray approves, gets a bit of a slide on, a bit of oversteer, and that saves him because that forces him out the way of Bud Boland. So unintentional success there from Martin van Rooijk, but he's under pressure here from Pimpao, side by side now through Camel Corner, down Camel Straight. Bud Boland will be reaping the rewards from this because he'll have double draft. Jumps to the outside, 3 wide down Camel Straight. BMW leading Porsche, but which BMW is going to be at the front? You can see Bud Boland now back up to where he just was. Pimpao up into 8th position. Martin van Rooijk, the big loser out of all of that.
Bud Boland imitating Mika Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher from the year, what was it, 2000, 2001, something like that anyway. He overtakes the back marker and at the same time overtakes the Michael. So to say, what a brilliant move from Bud Boland. And for me, that has to go down as one of the moves of the season here. Martin van Rooijk's almost collecting Pimbao as they come in and they do make contact and pull on. Oh, and I'm afraid that's going to be bad news for Pimbao indeed. Just as we come back, that battle was heating up a little bit too much. And let's just have another look and we can see just what went wrong there. Bao getting a little bit heftily defensive in the situation. He cuts across to see if he can shield off Martin van Rooijk. And I don't know if Martin van Rooijk could do anything about it, or it's a bit of a way to say, well, thanks for that, and see how we deal with this sort of thing then. I'm not quite sure. It wouldn't be in Martin's character whatsoever. Was it malicious? I don't think so. Was it unlucky? Very much indeed. And just to go back to this battle, Jack, Austin Gretorix still ahead by Ewan Marshall, in front of Ewan Marshall by half a second.
Yeah, so you can see there, Austin Gretorix slowly starting to extend that lead Martin little by little. Really starting to get the bit between his teeth once again, but then the draft starts to take effect down the Camel Straight and puts him back in front. Martin van Rooijk here in hot pursuit of Bud Boland with the lack of Pimbao now, of course. That a little incident dropped him behind Neil Cooper. This was the incident. You can see Pimbao started to creep across. Martin van Rooijk wasn't really at fault there. And then the second time around, I think that was just both cars going for the same piece of tarmac. Martin van Rooijk obviously not having the preferred line through the corner. Maybe didn't anticipate the understeer. Pimbao could have left him a bit more room on the outside, I feel, as well. And I hate to say it, but I know it's going to be an unpopular opinion, but sometimes I think you've just got to put that down to a racing incident. Both cars battling away. They treated us to some action lap after lap after lap, and they could have taken each other out at any point. And sadly, one or something had to give, and it was the battle overall. But this battle is still raging away. Ewan Marshall chasing down Austin Gretorix, and with just over 7 minutes of the race remaining, it's looking all good for Simracersworld.
It's looking perfect indeed for Simracersworld and Ryan Parkins. Only way it could get a little better indeed would be to have Austin Gretorix steal another spot on the podium. And the gap out for Johnny Verhoeven is actually slightly diminishing at the moment. I don't know how. I don't know just what they're doing to do so, but they're closing the gap at the moment to the Manatee Racing BMW. It's 2.6 seconds, so it's going to be a tough ask to close that up. All the while they're scrapping for positions themselves. And let's just keep an eye out on the development of that particular fight here, as Martin van Rooijk yet again is on the tail of Bud Boland. Oh, and he's really looking for it here into Blanchimont. He might have the chance to actually go for it. He gets such a run of overspeed into the corner. Is it going to be translatable into a run of overspeed out of it as well? I don't know. I don't think so, but he's going to be on the brakes late again, and it's not the first time he's had success. Oh, but this time it's not successful whatsoever, and Van Rooijk just tips round the car of Bud Boland. And that, I think, Martin van Rooijk's realized that he's very much perhaps at fault into that situation, just pushing a little too hard. And as a true gentleman, he lets Bud Boland by immediately. You know what, looking back at that on our screen, that looks like a bit on that coat, Jack.
Yeah, I think it was some oversteer as well on Martin van Rooijk's side. He went to go and correct the slide, and sadly it fired him into the side of Bud Boland. Nothing malicious there by the looks of it, and like you say, he lifted off, did the gentlemanly thing, and great sportsmanship from himself, of course. This is the battle for fourth, respectively. Austin Gretorix battling away with Ewan Marshall. Sorry if there's any background noise. It is the night before fireworks night. Everybody's getting a bit premature with the fireworks, so it is quite the racket outside at the moment. But this battle still raging away.
Yeah, indeed, Jackie asked me the question before the race: do you have a fireworks night? To which I could only, as a Dane, reply, "What do you mean, New Year's Eve?" And, explained to me what it was, and I certainly felt ever the idiot at that situation. Anyway, Martin van Rooijk yet again very close to Bud Boland, and I wouldn't put it past the Dutchman to get past on the Manxman in this situation, because he certainly seems like he has the impetus, and he certainly feels like he has the drive, the determination to get himself past. And look at this, by the way, Neil Cooper, who was in very early to pick up a fast repair as such, he's picked up quite a lot after that. He's back up into 9th place after being at the absolute bottom of running. Really good running after that from Neil Cooper. Pimbao, very unlucky indeed as he was put into the wall, and I'm actually very surprised that his car isn't more hurt than it is from that very situation. And Bud Boland is now having to defend big time, and that's into Blanchimont yet again, covering off the inside. Joop de Ligt asks Jack Werrell why there is a fire in the works night, Jack, and I think you're better at explaining that one than I am.
Yeah, it is way back. I don't know the exact date, Bud Boland. They're losing out a massive kick of oversteer on the exit. They can't slow each other down too much though, because look who's there to pick up the pieces. I will get to you very shortly, Joop de Ligt, but look at this. Martin van der Ewijk throws the car to the outside. It didn't work previously. Obviously, with the kick of oversteer, having to let Bud Boland by at the apex. It looks like Martin van der Ewijk is just in front. Bud Boland gets a better run through the middle. A bit of oversteer, and there you go. Martin van der Ewijk was in front. And look at that sideways moment for Bud Boland as well. Of course, but Joop de Ligt a fair while ago, don't have the exact date, a rather almost brave gentleman called Guy Fawkes decided he wasn't quite happy with the way Parliament was being run and tried to blow it up in London, got caught and got found out, and sadly, nothing came of it. However, we do have fireworks night, so everybody just sort of celebrates it by firing a load of fireworks into the sky. But that is tomorrow night. For some reason, people prematurely celebrating. Evidently tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if you could hear what sounds like a war zone outside my window. But Bud Boland still there in the middle now, so it's gone from a Porsche and a BMW sandwich to a BMW and a Porsche sandwich.
Yeah, that's just a good picturation of just how things can change quickly in the world of motorsports. Here is Ewan Marshall. He's gaining on Austin Gretorix. Over the last couple of laps, he's been getting closer and closer. And if he can set up a move, what a time it would be. And they've been going at it for so long. Indeed, the gap up to Verhoeven ahead of these, I mentioned it was down to 2.6. At some point, it's up once again to 3.7, I'm sorry, by now. Still Ryan Parkins with a comfortable lead now of 11.5 seconds indeed. And then Sam Bentham and Jennifer Verhoeven comfortably in third with Gretorix. Sorry, it was a bit of a burp pressing on there. Ewan Marshall, then Robin Neville for Flemish Simsports, who's done a very under-the-radar sort of performance today as well. He's made no mistakes whatsoever, and he's kept out of trouble to be in a very good position. He's 32 seconds ahead of Martin van der Ewijk at the moment. And a good Porsche Sport tells us that Ryan Parkins and Austin Gretorix are having chats about the moon landing in their driver radio, so that certainly shows that they've settled into a good rhythm by now. And it's, Jack, I have to say, it's quite impressive to see Ryan Parkins being able to just extend his gap, and then now knowing that he's been having a deep, profound conversation with his very teammate about the moon landings this entire time.
It doesn't surprise me at all. Doesn't surprise me at all. I know the Porsche Sport guys are always having a laugh, and Ryan Parkins and I'm sure Austin Gretorix are a mean recipe for some random conversations mid-race. Look at this, Neil Cooper trying to get past Bud Boland, and Martin van der Ewijk does the sensible thing and lifts out before the corner. Martin van der Ewijk, however, on the inside. Bud Boland scoots out towards the exit, washes out a little bit, still side by side. This is a move on what I think will quickly become the final or the penultimate lap of the race, but Bud Boland now in front, and Martin van der Ewijk under pressure from losing another position here. Neil Cooper there looking to get up the inside, however maybe not this time by, and let's have another look back, Hasse.
Absolutely perfect time for Bud Boland to actually gain the position, and what a beautiful move. He licked the stamp and he sent it into Le Combe indeed. And there was no coming back, even with the slide there from Boland. They went side by side through Malmedy, the right-hander here. But the outside seemed to be king for Bud Boland. He was able to just carry the speed down towards Brussels. Neil Cooper there almost getting into it as well. We've reached the final seconds of the race, and thus Ryan Parkins is indeed on his final lap. And we do have the white flag being shown to the entire field now. And he just has to make it around once more before he can throw his hands in the air and we congratulated the winner of the 10th round here of the 7th season of the Simracersworld GT Pro Series, brought to you by Porsche Sport. And what a way for our series sponsor to really get some bang for the buck and some success for a team that's been building and building and building, really going from strength to strength across the ends of the season. And look at this yet again. Van Rijwijk Jack goes out into and Bud Boland heated his tires and he's spun, and they will have another lap to do. And now it's Neil Cooper looking to the inside of the source. This is absolutely insane, and we're gonna have another look. Jack, talk us through what just happened.
Yeah, I don't think there was contact there. We will have a look though. There is the battle. Bud Boland, touches the curb, over rotates the car. That's what I suspected was the issue. And then in his haste to get back going again, changes up through a gear, evidently puts way too much power through the rear wheels, and he ends up pointing the wrong way. Gets back going again though. This battle still raging away though. Martin van der Rijwijk, he's almost lost one position, managed to gain it back just about. Neil Cooper around the outside in the draft. Evidently the draft is so much stronger in these Porsches now, and Neil Cooper got the position pretty much secured. Bud Boland also lost out to Pim Bao there. You could see that in the background. Neil Cooper, the lead Porsche of this battle. And Ryan Parkins, Hasse, he's heading towards the line.
Yeah, he very much is. As we are now getting a watch of Neil Cooper, which we're not going to get, because I'd like to see this man getting across the line in a few seconds here as he throws it into the bus stop for one final time. Ryan Parkins in the 225 Porsche 911 RSR for Strasse Porsche Sport wins at Spa Francorchamps after an absolutely beautiful lights to flag performance. Spotless it was. Beautiful performance here. Bentham for Ronin Sim Sports Academy comes home second. Johnny Verhoef, pretty much, it wasn't last to first, it was last to third more or less in the end. A very good drive with Austin Gretorix, teammate of the day, picking up 4th place right in front of Ewan Marshall. Then Robin Neville for Flemish Sim Sports in 6th place there. Neil Cooper, and their battle is still very much hot on the hands of Neil Cooper, who picked up a position there coming into the final lap, and that was a very good time to do it. Nonetheless, he might still have Martin van Rijwijk contending with it. He goes a little wide there. He tries to squeeze it up the inside, and there isn't space. Oh, and he goes to the outside. Oh, and he's passed. Will they touch? Oh, they keep it. And van Rijwijk goes past in the bus stop to take 7th place. That's a beautiful move. The Dutchman, Simpact Racing, and the teammates will be screaming, just like I am at the moment. Rarely do I get the partial in any way, but Martin's such a good lad, and that was a beautiful move to take 7th place in front of Neil Cooper in 8th, then Pim Bao now 9th. I'm sorry to catch my breath there for a moment. Bud Boland comes home for 10th place. Sepp Herberer in 11th, and Ryan Walker in the Nomad Ferrari is going to finish 12th in the end. But what a move there, Jack, from Martin van Rijwijk. Oh my word.
Yeah, brilliant stuff. Definitely didn't see that coming, but we knew he was confident on the brakes. We saw it in the first 20 minutes, and it really came to him. Ryan Walker, the final of the finishes now, coming towards the line. Let's see whether we can get a look at the incident with Bud Boland. And I think this is just where Bud Boland over-rotated the car mid-corner. And yeah, you can see no contact there. That's all Bud's doing. And he ends up pointing the wrong way on the corner exit as well. But we've got to remember, Hasse, Johnny Verhoef, he might have only finished 3rd and on the podium, but he has won the championship.
Johnny Verhoef very much has won the championship, and what a way to do it, with starting last and then just screaming up through the order of the race to take such a strong position. Anyways, here we are, race results, and to accompany that, why won't we have a little bit of music? There's a new playlist there from the wizard himself, Chas Draycott. So let's get on with taking advantage of that as I read you through tonight's results. Ryan Parkins, Strasse Porsche Sport, winning the race by 11.5 seconds in front of Sam Bentham from the Ronin Sim Sports Academy. Johnny Verhoef from Manatee Racing, our new SRW GT Pro Season 7 champion, confirmed after the race, and a 3rd place here. Beautiful race there indeed on his behalf. Austin Gretorix taking 4th for Strasse Porsche Sport as well, with Ewan Marshall for Team 11 in 5th, Robin Neville for Flemish Sim Sports in 6th, and then Martin van Rijwijk with a cent of a move there on the bus stop chicane on the very final lap under white flags to take 7th, right in front of Neil Cooper, who finishes 8th for Fury Simsport. Pimbao gets 9th for G-Drive Exemia, and then Bud Boland gets 10th indeed for Meraki Racing after a bit of a spinner there on the penultimate lap. Bad luck indeed. Sam Heber 11th, Ryan Walker for Nomad Sim Racing in 12th place, and then Paul Gosling, our only retiree of the race, 13th in a race that, well, you wouldn't really know it, but we only had 13 drivers racing. But what an absolute show we were treated to tonight.
Yeah, it really was a great show. And Ryan Parkins, with that dominating drive, I think, Hasse, we might be able to get him in for an interview.
We most certainly are, and I will take all pleasure in getting Ryan in here yet again. Ryan, what a beautiful performance. A lights to flag win here at Spa indeed. And to give you the chance to quote Mika Häkkinen in a very famous interview performance he once did, you made it look very easy today, Ryan, was it?
Yes.
Beautiful indeed. And championship-wise, also looking good for top placings tonight. And maybe a little bit of surprise, given how far away from the BMW pace the Porsches was at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, well, also as well, I think it just goes to show how much the team has effort we put in to turn up every other week to come and do these races. And yeah, where you see us at the start, obviously different VOP at the start of the season for iRacing, and then how we just go and build up, and we've slowly ramped up and got quicker and quicker. We've been doing the endurance series and iRacing as well, so we've been slowly building it up, and yeah, it's been great. Yeah, it was quite easy win, I'd say. I just had to break the toe from Sam, and then just kept going. I saw I lost loads of time in the pits compared to Johnny, but you know, in the world at the moment, it's all pretty bad, isn't it? My world for last week's been pretty bad. Lockdowns, COVID everywhere, sort of stopping work, stopping a wedding happening this month. You know, lots of uncertainty going on, but you know, the only thing that is certain is today Simracersworld was the fastest car out there.
It was an absolute beautiful performance, it was. And another beautiful performance by your teammate, Austin Gretorix, whom I was told all of a sudden you were having a discussion of the moon landing while racing, while he was very much a busy man in the race, not only racing for position, but doing a really big job holding back Johnny Verhoef of Manatee Racing in the earlier stages of the race. Do you think that made a difference in the longer run, as Johnny lost quite a lot of time in that battle with Austin?
Well, first of all, Austin done a great job. He came in last minute. He was saying that he managed to get off work early to come and jump in with minimal practice. You know, does a great job. It definitely shows you what the setup we've got that I made, which is very slippy in a straight line. Compared to the BMWs, but yeah, from what Austin was saying in the chat was that he was just faster on the straights, so you can't really catch him. I had a quick chat with Sam Bentham before he pulled me in here, and he said he couldn't catch me on the straights, and some corners I was quicker in the infield, the lower downforce setup. So also Johnny, where he saved loads of time just by fuel saving behind everybody, and I think Carl Sharkey, who was in the chat, he said that he was 3 seconds faster on every pit stop. I don't know if that's just his in-lap or if it was anything extra with fuel saving and everything else. But unfortunately, Carl couldn't come in this race. His wheel packed up literally a few hours before the race, so he was gutted, which is really annoying because you know we could have had at least 2 of us on the podium. But I think I've done really well, and just shows that a lot of practice and you keep going, you can get to the top.
Good stuff indeed. And Ryan, congratulations with the beautiful win. Before I let you off the interview hook from the booth here, is there anyone you'd like to give a shout out or a thank you to?
The team, Luke, Carl, Austin, all do a really good job in this car, helping out all behind the scenes, doing the socials. Simracersworld as well as Simrace, who sponsor us. Really great. And as always, my fantastic and beautiful fiance, Angelica Jelly Pacello. We're working together for the next 6 months together, so she's got to put up with this every other Wednesday or whatever day I'm racing. So, but thank you to her. She's beautiful. But yeah, cheers, boys. Thank you for the broadcast. It's a shame that everyone keeps turning up. It'd been great to have a bit of a battle up front. I didn't see any cars, but you know, you got to turn up to win it. So yeah, no, cheers guys, thank you very much.
Very much so, and that was a few words from race winner Ryan Parkins. Always a great pleasure having Ryan, not someone else. I don't even remember who I messed it up with last time. Now the joke kind of dies.
Don't do it.
Anyways, that'll be it, and we will quickly move on to our second place finisher for today, who is of course Sam Bentham. And Sam, welcome to the interview room here post race. A very good race for yourself, second place, and do you think by any means, any chances you could have had another race and ended up actually challenging Ryan Parkins for the win, or was it just set in stone to be second for you today?
Yeah, I think the latter, to be honest. I was just a bit off the pace for whatever reason. Ryan, it has to be said, drove an absolutely flawless race. I was keeping an eye on the times every lap. There was just no let up at all. So it's really good from him. I gave it everything I had. I just didn't have the pace, and Ryan made no mistakes, so I ended up there.
Indeed, and after a very consistent and strong season for yourself, you're also very much up in within the funny spots in the overall standings at this point of the season. Were you expecting that when we kicked off a good few months back?
No, not really, to be honest. Obviously, there's some mitigating circumstances with that. Some drivers have retired from the series and these kinds of things. But even then, I've surprised myself really with some of the performances. So I can't be too unhappy. To be honest, I think I mentioned last week, I don't really tend to think about the championship. I just come and try and do my best at every race. But it's nice to be up near the top, I guess.
Indeed, and one more race to go, the postponed round at Silverstone. Will you be having expectations of the same kind of result, or will it be a little bit more modest for you coming into the final round of the season?
I'm not that familiar with Silverstone, to be honest. I've not raced there very much. Also, I expect that Johnny will not be starting from the pit lane again. I expect he will take his usual thing at the front of the grid. So we'll see. Certainly the Porsches look really strong now. I don't know whether that's the BMW is not so strong, or whether it's just that the BMW was very powerful before, and now the true abilities of the Porsche drivers are coming through, because it's a fair BOP. But certainly there were a few people that were closer than they have been in the last few races. So I'm expecting a tough fight, and we'll see what we can do.
Indeed, and before we let you off the hook here in the booth, Sam, is there anyone you'd like to give a thanks or a shout out to?
I think as before, just the team running and everyone that's helping me there. It's a really good environment, good atmosphere. I'm learning a lot, so thank you everyone, and once again to my partner Emily for allowing me to race 3 hours a night and not complain about it. She's really very good to me about it. So.
Well, I'd like to extend a shout to my girlfriend as well, Julie, who deals with me screaming and shouting for hours on end 3 times a week as well when I'm commentating. So just a little thanks from me as well to the ladies in our life. That's good to hear the respectful vibes going out there as well. Anyways, a pleasure having you in, Sam, and best of luck. Hope to see you again in 2 weeks after the final race. And with that said, we'll go on to our final interview of the day, and it doesn't seem like we have Johnny Verhoef in. A bit of a shame. I'd like to hear from our season champ here, but we do have something that's almost as good, and it's one of the organizers, one of the stewards, and also very much one of the SRW drivers. It's Seb Hebra. Seb, welcome to the booth after round 10, which we believe would be the final round. Still one round to go with the postponed race at Silverstone. How was your experience of the race out on track today?
Horrible. I didn't have a good setup, and I was so much down on pace. And the car just spun 2 times in the coombe. I don't know why. It wasn't a really fun experience. And as an organizer, it wasn't really good to see how much the driver turnout has dropped. So I believe we were 13 drivers today. That's Yeah, not that really good. So I didn't like to see that. But I have good news. I bring news.
You bring news of Johnny Verhoeven being in the waiting room for an interview, or
Yes.
or is
It has something to do with Johnny Verhoeven and with Ryan Parkins.
Well, let's hear the news.
I've just checked the standings and I updated them. And it looks like Johnny Verhoeven is our new overall and platinum champion of the Simracersworld GT series. And Ryan Parkins is the champion of the gold class.
That is nice to have that confirmed indeed. I think we were pretty much sure on Johnny Verhoeven, but not that much on Ryan Parkins in the gold class, so that's nice to get along. I should have known when I interviewed him not too many minutes ago, but hopefully I'll have another chance to speak to Ryan before the entire season ends. We did see your troubles with the car, and always it's a shame to see Seb. Now, before we let you go off the hook here in the interview booth, is there anyone you'd like to extend a thanks or a shout out to?
Everyone who's still turning up to race, you two guys, Ian, of course, and yeah, everyone who's watching out there. We're doing it for you guys. I hope you enjoy it.
Indeed, and the same goes for me. I really do hope you're all enjoying the show here on SRW TV. Thanks, Seb, for joining us in the booth for a bit of a talk here. Always a pleasure, and we'll talk soon, mate.
Yeah, it was my pleasure. And now get Johnny in here.
Yeah, indeed. Here we are, Johnny Verhoeven, and our overall series and platinum drivers champ with a brilliant last to third drive today. Johnny, congratulations, first of all. What a beautiful race, what a beautiful performance, and what a beautiful season you've driven. You've been not only a fast man, but the most consistent over the course of 10 races so far.
Yeah, thank you very much, guys. Well, first of all, I'd like to congratulate Sam and Ryan on the podium as well. I think they drove really good. I doubt I probably would even got to Ryan without starting in the pits. But yeah, he drove really well. Yeah, starting for pits was actually pretty fun this race, to overtake some people. Because yeah, the participation is a bit dying, I'm afraid. So the other races were just by my lonesome. But yeah, overall it was a very good season, especially at the beginning when all the G-Drive boys were also there. And I forget what the other team is called, but with Niklas Last and the other boys. Yeah, it was very fun in GTs, are my favorite car, so it was very nice.
Indeed, and also tonight you seem to have a long and heated battle with Austin Gretorix, of course, the teammate of Ryan Parkins. Now, just a quick question, because it looked like you were trying to get past him and then just realized, okay, no point in battling this hard. I'm just going to save the fuel and take him on the pit stops. Is that what you thought about doing and ended up pulling off perfectly as well?
Well, perfectly, I wouldn't say that, but yeah, I knew I was quicker than him over a full lap, but I just couldn't overtake him because he had mega straight line speed. Even in slipstream he was pulling away from me, so I barely got to save fuel. Then in the final stop I decided to underfuel to basically overtake him in the pits, and thereby I screwed myself by underfueling too much, so I had to save almost 3 liters in the last 9 laps. So that I couldn't catch Sam that way because I was also quicker than him, I think, on every lap, if I wouldn't have to save fuel. But yeah, so there we are. Still got a podium, but I had very bad top speed.
Well, considering that you had, in your own words, very bad top speed, I think pulling off a podium place in this sort of competition is certainly not a bad result in the end, and with it crowning you the series championship, I think that's more than well deserved, Johnny. Fantastic season, and again, congratulations to you. Now, before we let you off the hook here and let you two enjoy the champagne, which I do expect you to have now. If you don't, you'll really be disappointing me big time. But anyways, is there anyone you'd like to thank or shout out?
Yeah, thank you guys for providing the nice broadcast every 2 weeks. Thanks to the organizers, Seb and Ian. Thanks to everyone at Manatee for helping me with setups when I needed them. And I guess that's it.
Very much so. Johnny, it was a pleasure having you here in the booth, and hope for another good race on your part and on everyone's part in 2 weeks, the final round at Silverstone.
Silverstone.
Yes,
yeah,
indeed.
I might start from the pits as well there, just for the fun.
That's a driver with a little bit extra to give. Yeah, I'll just take it from the pit. For fun's sake, just to make it interesting. Johnny, congratulations again, and always a pleasure having you in the booth for these interviews. And I'm gonna let you get off the hook. So congratulations again, and enjoy the night.
Thank you. Same. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. And that will be concluding our broadcast for tonight here at Simracersworld TV. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed what you've seen, and of course the bell notification icon is very much there for you to stay notified whenever we go live, which by now is quite a few times a week, given that we've now got the Simracers Dynamics NASCAR Winter Series running on Mondays. We've got this stuff synced for one more Wednesday. In 2 weeks tomorrow, we will have the GT Evo Series on the reverse Thursdays of such. There is Chas Draycott bringing you beautiful F3 action as well as we have the Sunday GT3 World League as well going on this very Sunday with me and Peter Mackay. So a lot of stuff to look forward to here on the channel. A lot of stuff to watch as well. And with that said, well, I'll be signing off for now. My name is Hasse Rømer. I've been with Jack Werrell in the booth tonight. It's been our absolute pleasure having you all along. And until next time, take care, have fun, and bye-bye.